Welcome to Soulful Conversation, the podcast that highlights stories of individuals sharing various life experiences and challenges. We showcase strength and resilience found in everyday experiences. So get ready to be inspired, informed, and entertained as we dive into topics with wit, wisdom, and a whole lot of soul. This is your space to laugh, learn, and connect with two fabulous women making a difference. So grab your favorite drink, get cozy, and let's dive in together to this soulful conversation with Shar and Miko. Okay, there we go.
There we
Okay,
go.
wonderful. Let me introduce. Welcome, Soulful listeners. We hope that you stay connected to us during the week through our weekly podcast on Spotify, our YouTube channel, Patreon, and social media. We love to hear your soulful stories, so send us requests to be heard on the podcast at info@soulful-conversation.com. Today, we have a special guest. Today, relationship counselor Marcus Alexander, who is passionate about helping individuals and couples reach their goals that are desired in a healthy way. He has a national certified counselor certification, a master's of science, and a bachelor's of business administration. So, we got an educated person on the line today. How are
Yay,
you,
yay.
Alexander?
I'm doing good. I'm excited. I mean, I cannot wait. You got me hyped here. So I'm so excited to hopefully learn as much as I give back. So
Yeah.
this is gonna be fun.
Okay. Well, let's get
Well,
into it.
hi, Marcus. I'm Miko. Nice to meet you, the co-host
Miko,
of Soulful Conversations. I have to
oh,
introduce myself. My
I'm so sorry.
Jerry, my geriatric co-star is always forgetting me.
I'm
Her
sorry.
name used to be Shar the Star, so she forgets she has a
oh,
co-host.
okay, okay. So you got to fight for your time. I see. I
I
got
gotta fight for my rights to party.
How
But
are you doing,
welcome.
Miko? Nice to meet you.
You as well, doing well. So excited to talk to you about these relationship questions. So let's
I
go
am
ahead and get
all
into it.
ears.
So I'm gonna
Yeah.
just kick it off with what are some of the key components to a healthy relationship?
Well, the big three, I call it, right? The big three is going to be making sure you know yourself, right? Know what you want and your needs. You can't do anything without that, right? The second piece
Oh,
of it, and make sure you understand how to express your wants and needs to whoever you're trying to get in a relationship with, so they can understand what you want. And then the other piece is going to be understanding what they want and need, right? Because if those things are misaligned, then as you progress through the relationship and then involve emotions, it's going to be some people stepping on toes, right? If they're not aligned.
totally.
So those are the big
So
three. And then we got some more things in between once you start, but you got to know where you're going before you can even get started, right?
Mm-hmm. So I had a
awesome.
question for you.
Hmm.
People that are premarital before they get married, is that a
Yeah,
big suggestion for you to for them to, how people go see their pastor for a time and they do counseling with
absolutely.
their pastor? Do you think that it's important for them to do premarital therapy together as a couple?
Yeah, I do. Only because, you got to think, knowing yourself is one part of it, right? Being interdependent with someone else is a whole different skill set, right? So
Mhm.
you can have lived by yourself independently or in what I call casual relationships and thinking that, oh, I got this. But then once you commit, and we're talking about long term, right? Once
Mhm.
you commit, it's a different type of skill set you got to have, right? So you got to make sure that you're not just operating off of emotion. Emotions can be, I love you, I want to be with you, we have fun. Those are emotional type responses
Mhm.
versus kind of adding some of the logic in there, which is, are we going to be good for each other down the road, especially as we grow, because we're going to continue to grow. Are we going to grow together or are we going to grow apart,
Right.
Woo! That is the whoop, the caveat,
right?
the icing on the cake. I mean,
Yeah,
really, because we all think that puppy love is gonna last, but them dogs
that's
get
right.
old and they
That's
forget
right.
to
Mhm.
bark.
That's right. That's right. And I tell people, if the relationship was a road trip, right, and gas was love,
Mhm.
then we can break down halfway on the road trip with a full tank of love, right? So love is not going to get us there. We need to check the tires, the engine, all the other stuff needs to be
Everything.
looked at as well.
Ooh
Yeah.
Yeah.
wee, ooh
Yeah.
wee. We come in with these preconceived notions that it's going to be butterflies and lollipops and silver moons. And
Yep.
it is a
Yep.
sad awakening. Okay.
Yeah.
So what role does trust play in the relationship in a healthy partnership?
Everything. My foundational pieces. And when you talk about foundational stuff, 90% of what I spend my time on in my therapy session is going to be communication, trust, compassion, intimacy. Right. So all
Mhm.
those things are intertwined.
Ooh,
Right. So you
I should
can't
have had
have
my
trust
notebook
without
out.
you can't have trust without communication, right? You can't have trust without compassion, and you can't have the other ones without trust. So once trust is broken,
Mhm.
there is a way back, right? You
Mhm.
can't rebuild trust, but the only way you rebuild trust is you have to reset the expectations and then adhere to that over time. A lot of people think, oh, with time itself that'll be enough, but like I know, wounds don't close up just because of time. It's just getting more tender, right?
Mhm.
Ooh, bars. Get
Mhm.
more tender. Bars. Give me a hot 16 real quick. That was authentically
I like her. I
loving.
like you. I
This
like
is
you.
my
Okay.
cousin. This is my
I
cousin.
love it.
Yes.
She already on my good list for Christmas. I like it. I
Woo!
like it.
That was so dope. Okay. Can you discuss the importance of boundaries in the
Hmm.
relationship?
Hmm.
Mhm.
A lot of people say boundaries. I call them non-negotiables, right?
Mhm.
I think that's part
Ooh.
of the initial conversation within the first 5 to 10 dates, to be honest with you. I
Really?
wouldn't even allow you to get your emotions attached to someone who doesn't adhere to your non-negotiables or your boundaries. and
Mm.
and and non-negotiables can be whatever the two people involved wanted to be, right? So that's why I love relationships, because it's all individually based on that couple, right? So one couple might have certain boundaries, the other couple might, but I want to focus on the person that you're with, and you got to know your non-negotiables, their non-negotiables, and figure out if there's something that is going to be a misaligned thing, right? So if I come in and I
Right.
say, hey, look, I believe in staying out all night because I party all night, and then your non-negotiables, I need you home at 9 o'clock, and I'm not going to compromise on that, then
Mhm.
why will we continue to invest our emotions into a situation that's going to always lead to conflict, right?
All right.
Wow. Ooh.
And
That
then
is the
the
truth.
other piece that that it's a non-negotiable or a boundary is, if I change my boundary or non-negotiable for you, am I giving up myself,
Mm.
right? So
Mm.
so you don't ever want to give your core self up for somebody else, because then they own you emotionally,
Oh my gosh. Come on, spit that hot
right? Mm-hmm.
16. You are on
Mm-hmm.
fire.
It's just
Yes.
what I do. Just what I do. That's all.
Sounds like music to my ears. I just love
Yeah.
the whole psychology of relationships and the
Yeah.
dynamics that we all play in trying to be one. But
That's
are we
right. That's
really
it.
one? We're individuals, but are we really one? Can we be
Well,
one?
yeah, you can one versus whatever goal you're looking for. Now, you can't be one if you have a goal and the other person have a different goal, right? It's no way we're going to be
Mm.
getting down the road. So, for instance, if you two came to me and said, "Hey, Marcus, get in my car," and I said, "Great," the first question I better be asking is, where we're going.
Mhm.
Because at some
Fact.
point, if my goal is to go one way and your goal is to go another way, and we're in the same car, then one of us is going to be upset.
All right.
Totally.
Right. So
Totally.
one is, we know where we're going, how we getting there, and we having fun along the way.
Mm.
Okay. So
Right.
now I
It's a road
totally
trip.
see the importance of premarital or pre-relationship period
Right.
Mhm.
conversations, simply
Right.
because we weren't even raised to, court correctly, to ask the right
Not at all.
questions, to just communicate effectively without, you know,
Not at all. And
ad
society
libs
makes
and
it, and
yeah.
society makes it worse, right? Because society would teach you that, and I'm about to throw my fellow species under the bus, but society will make you feel like men have to be the one that dictate the relationship, right? They have to be the ones that lead the relationship. And I think we've learned over time that true leadership is, how do I incorporate your vision into my vision, right? And not just so you
Ooh,
you get in the back seat of my vision, right? So
the back seat of
yeah,
my vision. And I like to
yeah,
drive, so that ain't gonna work.
that's right. And then it should be okay for you. It should be okay for you to drive, because maybe you're better at it than I am. Right.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
just like to go fast.
And she
I was
can't
going.
see. Where
And
are
I
your
Oh
glasses?
no!
Where are your glasses?
Oh no!
whoop whoop.
Put them on.
I'm not driving right now. I'm the
I see
passenger.
that. Now, see, let me say, I should have asked you before I got in the car. Do you need glasses? See,
See?
I didn't ask about needs and
Boom.
wants, so I need to know.
Yeah.
See how we drop the ball so easily? Assuming. Assuming, making an ass out of you and
Yeah,
soon.
that's right. That's right. That's absolutely
The bitch
right.
is blind. The bitch is blind. I can't see. I need to wear my glasses like DMC.
There you go. She's the rapper.
I like her. I like her. I'm
She's
telling
the
you.
rapper and I'm the DJ.
I'm about to ask her when did she fall in love with hip hop. We're about to have a whole nother conversation here
Right.
now. So.
Oh my God, Brown Sugar, baby. I fell in love with hip hop in '85 with our
See what I'm saying?
Rock Him, boo. When he
Come
took the
on
mic.
now.
He
Come
took the
on.
mic. Microphone fiend. Come on
Here
now.
we go.
What?
Here we go.
What? What? Bars?
This has been my
He
whole
is
life.
the GOAT.
That's her personality, my whole entire life.
Oh man, she lighting up the whole. She lighting up the whole room.
Definitely.
Come on now.
Definitely. Well, look.
Totally.
How important is it for partners to share similar values or goals? Because some people don't know the difference between the two.
That's right. Absolutely. And
Yeah.
that's a great question, actually. Values are going to be what I call your first 20 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to share that, but you better know what the first 20 years of your partner was like, meaning childhood. Because if you don't know what childhood was like, then when you see the behavior that doesn't align with what you grew up with, then you're going to end up judging the behavior, which means it's going to be conflict. But if you tell me how you was raised, meaning any trauma, anything that you went through, then at least I can understand your awareness of your childhood and understand the awareness of your behavior. So I can now give you kind of a benefit of the doubt and not take it personally, right? Because sometimes
Mm-hmm.
we don't have that information, we'll take it personally, then now the conflict ensues.
Sprinkle me, mine. You gotta lace me up or something, mine. Yeah, just sprinkle me, mine. Oh my God. You got my Bay Area on.
But I'm gonna tell you though, that's a good question. That's probably one of the better questions I've ever had. Because they do people mix that up, right? Values and goals, right? So values is where you came from and what you're carrying with you, and the goals are where you're going, right?
Right.
Ooh-wee. And what you were taught, how you grew up in your household, who was the matriarch, the patriarch, was the patriarch even there? Was it a bunch of women, just all men?
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh. And how
then on top of that, when you get with that person, you're marrying that person's values, right?
Yeah.
Whoa. Because that doesn't change. That is part of their makeup. Totally. Oh
Absolutely.
My gosh.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh.
The process that we have to do during dating. Dating has to be intentional. We can't just be out here willy-nilly, right?
No.
Ooh, and I have 3 sons. So I tell them, please be intentional with these females because, they could be thinking that they're just kicking it, or he could be thinking, we're just kicking it, Mom. And wires are crossed, feelings getting hurt, and now you're on to another person. So this is another damaged individual you have to deal with. And
we'll get into that, but we'll get into that feelings thing, right? Because a lot of people say that, right? The only reason your feelings get hurt is because one or two reasons, right? Either we don't have goals and we're getting disappointed because we haven't shared our goals, or we have goals and you're not adhering to it.
Well, we have goals and you're not adhering to it. What?
Yeah.
To do.
What?
So your feelings should never be hurt if you start on the front end the right way. Because even if you have conflict, the accountability comes from the goals holding you accountable, not me, right? Because you said you was going to do this, then why are you doing that? Because you agreed to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why are we fighting?
Well, what if red flags look like in an unhealthy relationship?
Anything that doesn't align with what you want, right? And you should notice red flags. I would say if you're getting into month 2 in a relationship and you're not noticing red flags or identifying red flags, then you're looking at the relationship totally different. Because everybody's going to come with some level of red flag only because you're 2 different people.
Right.
Absolutely.
Unless you grew up in the same house and even then you can date your brother and sister and still have red flags. So
totally. Who are they? We're still trying to figure them out.
Right. Exactly. So red flags are a good thing if they're identified and addressed. Red flags suck if you just overlook them and keep moving.
That's right.
It totally does. It totally does. And with it being football season, I'm calling all flags on the play.
And I'm gonna tell you that's a good sign if you start. Well, if you have a guy who really really understands you and wants you, he's gonna want you to call that out because he's gonna know you serious, right?
Dead ass. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Call you on your shit. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So how do couples cultivate intimacy and connection in their relationship? What can be the caveat to bring that moisture in?
Okay. I like it. I think the biggest thing is you have to be as a woman, you have to be able to. I'm talking from a male's perspective. I would assume you would have to be able to tell me any and everything without the fear of me taking it the wrong way. Meaning, if you can be your absolute self, right, and I can accept that, good, bad, and ugly, then obviously you're going to feel connected, and compassion is going to be at an all-time high. Emotional intimacy is going to be at an all-time high, and then the rest is history at that point, right? You're going to want to connect more, right? So I think constantly 24 hours letting you be who you are and not trying to suppress or change you is the ultimate intimacy. Now, there are degrees of this because of, like I was telling you before, society has told us what's acceptable and what's not. But I'm talking just between a man and a woman. You should know that at some point, right, I want you to be yourself. Because when I say I love you, I want to love you and not who you're presenting me to be just to make me happy.
Oh my gosh, you're making me dig into the bag of my past where they tried to smother all this. They tried to just harness all this happiness and bubbliness and was like, can you tone that down? Can you tone that down? Do you have to do that? Do you have to say that? And why are you so mean? Why are you so emotional? Why?
And everybody, that's the funny thing about it. You're good because you're bringing up something that really play into the fact of how men are really kind of either naive or deceptive, right? So everybody's
Totally
emotional, and I would say men are more emotional than women.
Really? Right? Why do you say that?
Because I think we, as humans, first of all, we all emotional, right? We all feel sadness, disappointment, happy, or whatever. The problem is when they say they're not emotional, what they're telling you, red flag, is I don't get in tune with my emotions. Meaning, if I'm not in tune with my emotions, how the hell am I being in tune with yours?
Right.
Impossible.
So then we're going to be in conflict because the moment you see something wrong with me, I'm gonna want you to handle it like I handle it, which is overlook it and keep moving.
That part. Whoa. Right. Overlook it and keep pushing. Flag on the play.
Yeah, that's what I said. A strong man would sit there and go and be like, okay, you calling me on my stuff. I appreciate that because I'm now getting better.
Amen. Amen. Look at the light on you, my brother. Shine bright like a diamond.
years of experience. Trust me on this one.
Come on, you speaking like a G, and that means genius. Okay.
We gotta keep her around.
It don't.
We gotta keep her around. I love it. I'm not asking for it to stop. I keep it going.
All right.
This is
good. So go ahead, S.
I was gonna say, what strategies can partners use to resolve conflicts constructively? Because I'm gonna go to the left 3 times and back to the right and then back to the left 3 times. What does constructive in my entire life, like I'm just my mouth.
That frown, you ever notice that just stays when she just
yeah. I'm gonna tell you this, and it's gonna be hard to hear this, but I'm gonna let you know that at some point
we got our big girl panties on.
When you react like that, the first sign is that somebody puts you in a masculine role to where you have to self-preserve. So normally I tell people you don't wake up to do that unless you have a mental health illness, right? You don't wake up to sit there and say, I got to protect myself. And like right now we on this call. If someone breaks into your house, you're not going to politely say, hey, who's there? You're going to pick up something and defend yourself, right? And I think sometimes the relationship puts you in a position to defend yourself. So I don't just look at the behavior. I look at what's causing the behavior, what's triggering that behavior, right? So, and then we go from there. So a lot of times people will make you feel like you have a mental health issue because you're mad and not look at what caused it and what triggered it, right?
Oh, absolutely. And play on that gaslighting. Yes.
That's right. That's all it is. That's all it is. It's your
Gaslighting.
fault that you're upset, right? And
Mm-hmm.
matter of fact, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take it another step further. Is you're telling me what's wrong with you, and now I make your issue my issue because now you're making me upset. So now you have to eventually apologize to me for you being upset, right?
Right.
Ooh,
Yeah. So
manipulation 101.
that's the game right there, right? The game is if I keep you chasing me, then I'll never have to
Mm.
be accountable for what I do, right?
Mm.
Whew.
So the strategies that you use is you always set the parameters around the message and not the messenger, right? So what a lot of people, both men and women, want if they're in the wrong, they want you to be louder than your message because now they can point that out. Look at you, tone. Look at you, how you coming at me. Look at you, slamming doors. You're walking away. Whatever it is. So
Mm-hmm.
now they can focus on that and not, oh, why are we here to begin with, right?
Mm-hmm.
So to
Okay.
resolve it, you have to always make sure that you learn the skill set of there's no need for me to get mad when we already have an agreement and you broke it. Why would I get mad? I'm just telling you, I'm
Agreements.
just this is your opportunity to accountability for what you've done. This is my grace and mercy to you by listening.
Mm-hmm.
So
Ooh,
if
I
I'm
love
listening,
that.
why are we fighting?
Right.
Ooh, wee. Ooh, just hot rocks.
Yeah.
Hot
I'm not gonna
rocks on
fight
that
you. I'm not gonna
ass.
fight you based on agreements. I'm not gonna do it. That makes no sense to me. Right.
Mm,
Mm.
mm, mm. Ooh,
So
look, we both like we in church.
Right.
yeah,
Pastor,
yeah.
preach, pastor,
I'm not gonna
preach,
do it. I'm
pastor.
not gonna do it. And watch how you
Mm-mm.
change the behavior of the other person when you stop fighting, right? Right. All I'm talking about is based on my wants and needs, right? If I want to move on with this relationship, then what I'm gonna do is start with part one, which is let's establish goals going forward.
Mm-hmm.
Heal from whatever you did in the past, right? And then I'm gonna see if you can attune to my feelings, right? And atone for your behavior as we make new expectations for the future, right? But if I see any one of those three not working, then I'm getting a picture of a red flag, right? That hey, you're not accountable, which is a trait that I need for the future. So if you're not accountable to what you did in the past, how am I going to bank on you being accountable for what you're going to do in the future? So you
Right.
don't have a line of credit anymore, right? So in order for you to get a line of credit, you have to tell me why you didn't pay the bill the last time. Because we're here because you didn't pay the bill, meaning you didn't meet the expectation.
Whew.
Mm.
So if you can't even talk about that, how can I give you another line of credit? That makes no sense to me.
Zero.
As they say in church, if you can't say amen, say ouch. Ouch. Bars. Ouch. Ouch.
So look, so when there's an issue in relationships,
Mm-hmm.
people tend to focus on you did this to me, not
Yep.
necessarily the behavior. So what is the remedy or what is the a format to let's address this behavior and not even
Well,
the scenario?
absolutely. Well, you have to the person with the problem have to be the most healthiest person, right? If you're unhealthy trying to address a problem with someone who obviously has been identified as unhealthy because of their behavior, then it's probably going to be a fight,
Mm,
right? So you have to come in. The skill set has to be on the person who wants the behavior to be addressed. So you can't let anybody take you off place. So I'm gonna give you a scenario, right? So person A does something unhealthy behavior.
mm-hmm,
Person B is hurt by that behavior.
mm-hmm,
Person B is going to go to that person. Remember, we talked about the agreements, right? Okay, why did you do X when you know you're supposed to be doing this, right? And then the person is either going to deflect or account for their behavior. Just because they account for their behavior don't mean it's solved, but it at least gets you to the next step. But
mm-hmm.
if that person can't even account for their behavior, meaning they deflect onto you something, the gaslighting, then now
Woo.
you have to be attuned enough with your emotions to regulate yourself so you can get them back on track, right? And then what you get them back on track of, you sit there and you restate the problem, or you ask them in that moment, what does that have to do with what you did? Because again, when you look at the system, you got to know the system. The system is we're all responsible for each other's feelings because we're in interdependent relationships. Because I can make you upset and you can make me upset. What I do with that is on me though.
Right.
So what
True
you're
that.
saying, Shar, is how do we focus on the things that you control 100%? We'll deal with the feelings that created the actions that created your feelings, but your actions to hurt me was strictly your decision, right?
Ooh.
And I want to focus on why you use that tool for that feeling, because you're going to be sad even in the future, because human emotion, right? We're never going to just be a utopia and happiness. So what happens in the future when you're sad? Are you going to do the same thing?
Ooh.
So I need to worry about your toolbox versus kind of the emotion of happy and sad, because if you're using that to be unhealthy, then you're already a red flag for me.
Boom.
Totally. Pow, dome shot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Had to let it go with the toolio.
Yeah. Don't let people play with you. Don't let people play. Hey, look.
In my
We're
face.
We're gonna focus on what you can control versus you deflecting from 100% of what you control to deflect on what I'm doing. You're trying to change me before you even change yourself.
Come on,
that's not
brother.
gonna work.
Yeah. I like how you said about the tools too. The tools that
you gotta have
that
some
are
tools.
gotta have some tools in our tool belt. So we gotta already come fully aware of what's going on.
And you're gonna notice you're gonna notice when you're dating. I'm telling you right now, the key to a relationship is the selection, right? As we're dating and having all this fun, I'm asking you about your past, because I know, and hopefully you two know, that their behavior just don't start at the age of 40.
Right.
So if you're gonna hurt me now, you've been hurting. Right. So I'm gonna find all that out in the beginning, unless you lie to me. Right?
You lied to me.
Yeah.
You lied to me. And then now you bleed on people that didn't cut you.
There you go. There you go. Yeah. So you're not going to just start a behavior at 45. There's no way.
Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. Your toxic ass been floating around this planet all this time, unhealed, unhealthy, unholy,
and uncalled out. I'm calling it out, right? I'm gonna make sure that when I see it, I say something, right?
See
I don't care if that's the
something.
first date. I don't care if it's the first date or it's the 150th day. If the first time I'm seeing it, I'm saying something. Right?
Yes, you
and
should.
I'm not saying something to put you down. I'm saying something to address it, because if I'm going to take the next step, which is the next date or the next move or the next stone that we're going to step on, then I need to make sure that we rectify this issue now before we get there. Because I'm not going to sit here and rectify an issue that I saw 2 years ago when I was dating you.
Ooh. And why do you think people stay 2 years later when they saw that flag on the play? Emotions, loneliness,
and unhealthiness on their part, right? Most people, come on, we're humans. We want to be accepted, right? And again, and I'm speaking for women, because men don't normally go through this as much as women. But women have been conditioned by society, which I think is the worst thing that could have happened, to say that you got to wait for a man for everything in a relationship, right? Can you go to your man and be like, I'm going to get down on one knee and ask you to marry me?
No.
Never.
No.
Never.
Because he's going to look at you like you crazy as hell.
Yeah.
Yes.
But he can get down on one knee and ask you, even though you're not ready. The expectation is you better say yes. This is your chance, right? This is your chance. So we're conditioned in society to have women chase men. So what happens, to your question, why do we end up in those situations when we know we see red flags, is because, man, you convince yourself, or society convince you that, hey, nothing of a man is better than or something of a man is better than nothing, right?
And I grew up in the South where the blues was king, so that's all they sing about. A piece of man is better than no man.
Right.
Marcus, are you from Louisiana?
Yeah, Louisiana. I grew up in Alabama. Spent most of my adult life in Louisiana, so New Orleans. Yeah.
Oh, wow! And from Hammond.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, you're from Hammond. Okay, you're right up the street, man. Okay.
Up the street, right on the corner.
Yeah, you right over there.
In the block.
Over there on that North Shore. Okay, come on.
Say what?
Okay.
Say what?
I like that.
Say what?
So where you at now? So you in Washington right now, right?
I'm in Vegas.
You're in Vegas? Boy, you went, okay. I gotta find out some stuff. Okay. Oh, that's cool. So Louisiana to Vegas. Wow.
Yeah. Well, Louisiana, Washington. Back to Vegas.
Yeah.
to Vegas.
How
Yes.
long you been in Vegas?
12 years now.
Oh yeah, you okay? Okay. You handling yourself down there? You controlling yourself down in Vegas? You good?
Oh yeah, very good, very good. I'm the outspoken. I like to pop out and show in my
Hey,
K-Dot
Char,
voice.
Char, we need to put her to the center of the screen. Char, let's go. Let's ask some questions
I
here.
know.
What's going on here?
Exactly.
Put me in the hot seat, huh?
Yeah.
Yes. There we go. There
And y'all
we go.
really did it. Y'all really did it. Y'all did the damn thing. I'm mad. I'm mad.
I can go on and on. Don't get me started. So that's what I do for a living. Ask questions and listen.
I know that's right. I know that's right. So,
I don't want
what
to be
resources would you recommend for couples looking to strengthen their relationship?
Well, obviously, one is therapy, right? The other is making sure that we spend time together, because I think that's a lost art in relationships now, right? Quality time, not just okay, we under the same roof because we live together, right? But I think it needs to be intentional dating, right? I think when you date, you need to be dating to find something new. I always say at some point, right, and a lot of people who had me know this, right? Your partner is a book, unless you know the book. And here's the cheat sheet. You don't always know the book because each day you're writing a new chapter. So once you stop reading the book, you know you're not growing together. So every day is an intentional date. So that's the biggest resource, is how much time am I spending with my significant other? Quality time, to know what happened in their lives and how that affects my life, right? I want to understand you. The other piece is therapy, because therapy allow you, especially couples therapy, allow you to work on the infrastructure. Right. It ties everything together, and what you're doing, what your partner's bringing to the table and doing, and then how it works to align with your future. Right. So it's like cleaning up the streets, right? It's like making sure everything is in its place, right? So that's the biggest key. And the other thing is going to be always making sure you learn how to listen. So I think the lost art too is we can go on a date, but if we're not listening, then we're missing things that we should be paying attention to, right? Plus, we're not
Especially
connecting.
active listening.
That's right.
Active listening. Because you could just say you and I say, what did you hear me say? Absolutely. And it's totally different from what the hell I just said. Now I believe you can comprehend.
Absolutely.
I mean,
absolutely. No. Be yourself. No, absolutely. No, this is important though. This is important. I think. So I think how are you going to be accepted if someone didn't hear your book or read your book? So when they say they love you, what do they love? Because you haven't heard anything I said, because you've been talking the whole night.
Dang.
Whoa.
So do you think that it's important for when people are in relationships, for couples to have their own individualized sessions as well as couples counseling? How important is that?
I think you should have had an awareness of what's going on with you individually before you get to a session, before you get to a relationship. But here's how couples relationship can help though. If you go into a situation and you're like, hey, we need to do premarital work, or even if you're not getting married, we just need to work on something to make sure we're going down the right road. No crisis or anything.
Yeah.
Then through couples therapy, because it's working on the infrastructure, it will let you know if your car needs maintenance. Right. So individual therapy is just your car needing maintenance. The infrastructure is once your car is maintenance and is ready to ride, do I have a paved road? Do I have stop signs? Do I have speed limits? What's the thing that's going to keep us from having accidents, which is the conflict, right? So that's how it works, right? So you don't want, and a good couple therapist can do both, right? But if you really want to get into the car maintenance and really get into some deep work, it will have to be individual, because you want that hour for you.
Right.
Now, do you write rhymes in your spare time? Because you got the metaphors on
I do
point.
I do not write.
I'm picking up your Method Man vibe.
I do not. I like Method Man.
Tical. I'm picking up your Tical.
Help. Send help.
Don't move her. Let her stay there and be. See, that's what I'm saying. Let her be herself. That's the value added, right?
Listen,
you want to simmer this pot, bro. They want to simmer the pot, and this gumbo brewing in there. Cooking up some real stuff in here.
I'm learning.
So,
Absolutely.
well,
Yeah.
let's get into some trauma-based questions because everybody
Okay.
comes with trauma. What
Absolutely.
does that look like? What are some common effects of trauma in a relationship?
Well, first of all, trauma can be anything, right? So we got to
Anything.
make sure we define trauma. Trauma can be, and it's all specific to that person, right? So
Totally.
I can grow up with a 2-parent household in the suburbs
Mm-hmm.
and feel traumatized by my upbringing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's all based around your needs, right? So the things that causes trauma are going to be all around parenting, right? Unless you're talking about obviously severe trauma, which is sexual abuse and some type of physical abuse or some type of emotional abuse. But what I'm talking about when I say trauma can be as small as my mom didn't teach me how to trust others,
Mm-hmm.
right? My mom didn't teach me how to love myself. My mom didn't teach, or dad, if you have your dad there, but my parents didn't teach me how to be in an interdependent relationship where I had to rely on somebody else and show up and do my part,
Mm-hmm.
right? My parents didn't teach me how to attune to not only my emotions but to someone else's emotions, right? In other words, I don't know how to work in the midst of a system. I'm only knowing how to work with what I know. I do it for myself. When you see somebody coming and say I can do it for myself, you already know they're coming from a level of trauma. If it's not childhood trauma, it's coming from trauma from a relationship, because you should never
Whoa.
think that you want to do anything by yourself, right? That comes
Wow.
from putting your walls up, right? So that's what I consider the smaller levels of trauma that happens more often than not. Now, of course, the severe trauma that I just talked about with sexual abuse and neglect and abandonment, just physical,
Mm-hmm.
that's a whole different level, right? But all the trauma is dealt with the same way, though, because it affects you the same way, right?
Right.
So what happens when you get into a relationship and you have not processed or even identified your trauma? What you're doing now is walking to that relationship and expecting your partner to be what your parents should have been or what your last person who traumatized you should have been. So
Mm.
you're not coming into the relationship with a blank slate. And what happens is that person now has to pay for what the other person has done,
Mm.
Mm.
right?
Mm.
And that
Wow.
still takes the accountability off of you. It's your responsibility to deal with your trauma. Right? But see, watch this though. The magical part, what I'm saying all night is the person who's with you, if they're healthy, they would identify that within the first 10 dates.
The first 10,
True.
1-0.
First 1-0. If I go out with you 10 times and I don't realize that you have childhood trauma that has not been processed, I'm not asking you the right question.
Boom. See?
We're just having fun, and you know what having fun means.
Yep.
We're just getting together, kicking it, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And even then, it's going to be hard for you not to let your trauma slip out.
That's
Mm.
true.
so,
That's true.
so
That's true. It's coming. It's showing up like a unexpected guest always.
that's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
Popping up like, who the hell are you? Oh, hey, I'm trauma.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And you're
Here
never,
I am.
and you're never going to have a successful relationship with unprocessed trauma.
Ooh wee.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Ooh
You're never
wee.
going to have it, right? Because at some point, if you have unprocessed trauma, then all you're operating on in your relationship is trauma responses. Right?
Mm.
So
Whoa.
every time
Now,
you're triggered, you're going out doing something unhealthy. That's your coping mechanism, right?
Mm.
let's get into these trauma bonds now.
There
What
you
does
go.
that look like? Because a lot of people swear that, they made that connection, but it's a trauma bond now. You got your trauma, I got my trauma, and now we think it's love because we've been traumatized.
Yeah, and it's a true bond. So it's more addictive than actual crack, right? So
Ooh,
when you get with someone and they don't even have to have similar trauma, as long as they have trauma. I mean, they coming
trauma.
from a
Yeah.
deficit.
Mm-hmm.
Now, at some point, you guys are relating to that part, right? And not relating to
Mhm.
your goals. Remember, anything that's going to take you off your goals is going to be something that's going to be negative and unhealthy. Trauma only focuses on the past, right? Because the trauma happened in
Mm-hmm.
the past.
Right.
So if you're trauma bonding with somebody, you're only
Ooh.
trauma bonding with your older self, which means that you guys can never truly grow effectively together because the only way you guys can relate is through the past.
Mm.
OMG.
Right.
Head
Well,
blown.
So
what
I want to
role?
relate with somebody about where we're going, not where we've been, right?
Right.
Mm,
All right.
Well, what role
mm.
does therapy play in overcoming the trauma in a relationship?
It identifies it for one, because healthy is going to be the inability to adhere to an interdependent relationship, whether it's with you and yourself or you and another partner. So once you have conflict and you don't have the process to get over conflict, right? Now you know trauma must be a part of it, because trauma prevents you from having healthy responses and conflict resolution, right? So,
Conflict resolution.
right, right, because no
That
one
is
ever
our
said that you're
word of
not going
the
to have
day.
conflict. You're
Right.
gonna always have conflict, right? So,
Mhm.
so if you go into a relationship thinking conflict is not going to happen, you're sadly mistaken. But I'm not going to go into a relationship thinking that we can't get past our conflict. So, for instance, I have a motto, and I teach this to my clients. I can have 1,500 problems as long as there are 1,500 individual problems, and I can deal with all 1,500. But I'm not going to have one problem that I talk about 1,500 times.
Right. Yeah. That's
Right? I'm
crazy.
not going to do that. That's
It's
crazy.
crazy,
I
right?
mean, someone's not talking and someone's not listening, and that's going to be my red flag that you have some trauma, because you cannot change. Remember, when somebody's stuck and they can't move forward, even with accountability and change behavior, then something in their past is stopping them from doing that, right? It's a trauma.
Mm.
They're in
Ooh,
self-preservation mode.
sheesh.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So
And just
we're not
hearing it
doing it.
just puts the icing on the cake, because we're functioning in trauma. We're
Yep.
thinking that
Yep.
we're doing the damn thing, and here we are just
That shit crazy.
functioning
That's why they tell
traumaholic.
addicts. That's why they tell addicts when they get out of AA or whatever, NA or whatever, they tell them, they say, hey, look, you can't get in a relationship with someone who also is an addict,
Mhm.
because all you two are going to bond over is the addiction,
Mhm.
right? So it's
Strictly.
not going to work. So all you're going to be talking about is either how do we get high, or look at me as a victim because I used to be an addict,
Mm,
Mm.
mm, mm.
right? You're
Right.
never going to talk about your goals, right? And then the other person is going to be responsible for trying to make sure they're accountability partner for you when they're struggling with their own stuff.
Oh my goodness.
So
Wow.
you got to make sure you find somebody who is absolutely whole, and whole meaning not perfect. Whole meaning I know I've been through something, I've
Mhm.
worked on it, I'm aware of it, and I can manage it so it doesn't jump off on your plate.
Mhm.
Awesome. Awesome. I read something that said, how do you know that you have healed? It says when you don't
Mhm.
have to cry as you're telling your story anymore.
That's
So
right. That's absolutely correct. That's
yeah.
grief therapy too. Like when you have someone
Yes.
who you love pass away. Yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah. When you
absolutely
can
right.
tell that story without just falling apart, you've
That's
healed.
right.
So I
Mhm.
love
Right. The
that. I
wound,
love
yeah, the wound is closed, right? But how many times do we see people walk around in relationships and use the metaphor of don't touch that, don't touch that, and they're holding this wound, right? You can't touch it,
Mhm.
you can't ask about that. Don't ask me about my husband. I don't want to hear about my wife. Don't ask me about that. It's because they never dealt with it. And if you touch it, it's gonna hurt,
Yeah.
right? They're trying to prevent themselves from hurting. So the crying that you're talking about is someone that touched the wound, and now the original pain, it feels like the same thing, like it happened all over again, right?
Like it happened all over again. So
Mm-hmm.
wow.
Mm.
Oh, you are just the brain, and
Yeah.
we're just the pinkies of the world.
Uh,
Pinky and the
no, 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 no,
Not
it's not
pinky in
that.
the
I promise you
brain.
that.
Pinky in the brain. I am not gonna deal with you today.
It's not that. It's not that.
No, I love it. I love it. I love it because it just flows so organically. It just feels good to hear the truth, of how we
Yeah,
can just function in this dysfunctional world. So it
yeah,
has been a pleasure, Mr.
yep,
Marcus. Just
yep, yep.
totally,
No, it's
totally.
my pleasure to meet you for sure, right? So, like I said,
Absolutely.
any question, it to me is relationships are easy. When it's hard, okay, something's not changing and moving. It shouldn't be this hard, right?
It
Thank you.
should not be this hard at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, what
Mm-mm.
can partners do to support each other when dealing with trauma?
The only way you support each other is accountability, right? Remember,
Mhm.
you're not really supporting your partner, you're really supporting your goal,
Mm.
right? Remember, it's an achievement. A relationship is an achievement for you, meaning when you start with that partner, it's a partnership. There'll be no different if I ask you today, let's get into this business venture together. I'm gonna put in 100,000, you two put in 100,000. We got 200,000, right? At some point, we have now developed a partnership. From that point on, I cannot move unilaterally. I have to invite you two in and have a vote whenever I do something with the business. A relationship is no different. So you'll know when a relationship is dysfunctional when somebody's making unilateral decisions
without coming to the partnership. Right.
Ooh.
So the only way to support that person is to sit that person to account for the fact that you're making these decisions without me, whether they're good decisions or bad decisions, doesn't matter. It's a decision that's not supported by me, which now I feel like your employee, not your partner. Right. So that's how so your support is going to be supporting your goal, which is I don't want to be in a relationship that I'm not a partnership in. Now it's going to be on that person to account for why they made unilateral decisions when we are both emotionally invested in this thing and have a goal.
Right.
Right.
Ooh.
Well,
Yes.
what do techniques look like to help process trauma as a couple together? What does that look like?
Oh, that's the fun part. Now that's the part I was saying, dating with a purpose, right? The fun part is if you have someone who's been through some trauma or whatever, and you're processing together, then what you're talking about is what you've learned from the trauma. See, the trauma becomes a museum at that point, right? So all that person is doing or you're doing is taking that person through your museum and saying, this room right here was 1985. Here's what my dad did to me, but here's what I took away from it because I processed that trauma, right? Or, hey, I still haven't processed that trauma. Can we talk about it together and I can get your insight on it? Because if you trust them enough to be vulnerable and open up about it, right? They don't become your therapist, but they become your partner in your trauma, which means they're helping you to the future. Because what you're asking is, how can I become better and learn from this in the future? You'll know it's a trauma bond when they're trying to keep you in your trauma. Right. I don't want to stay in the trauma because it's a museum. It's not open for play. It's just open to observe and to learn. Right. You'll know when somebody in their trauma because they're still living there. You'll be like, it's 2024, right? And they're still living in 1985.
Yeah.
Right.
Boom.
When somebody keep telling you when they now here's the powerful part, right? I'm giving you guys the keys, right? When they do something wrong, and they keep telling you that something was wrong because of something that happened years ago. Wait a minute. Wow. That means you're not even present with yourself, let alone present with me. Right.
Ooh,
so
that's the mental health side.
So then what? Yeah. Is it time to just pack your bags and get going?
No, you give them an opportunity because of the partnership, right? You give them an opportunity because hopefully you know this stuff, but you give them an opportunity to sit there and say, here's your line of credit. So I'm giving you a new line of credit. I understand what happened because you told me. I understand that you want to get better. That's what they got to come and tell you. Hey, I want the line of credit. I want to be better. Meaning they're talking about the future, right? And then you're going to take what they've done, the behavior, what you believe that caused it, their trauma, and now secrete the positive from that, which is a positive in everything. Even the negative behavior is positive in it. And say, okay, here's what we're going to do to create a new expectation and to get a new understanding. And then the only way you rebuild trust is the desired behavior done over time. Right. So trust, even when we do all that, trust is not built in that moment because it's just a line of credit. You got to still pay on your debt.
That's
and
right.
That debt is paid by the desired behavior being done over time. So I no longer have to micromanage you. You own it now.
Oh my gosh. So with all this going on with the adults, the children are watching. So how do we even process it with those little eyes on us, taking up everything again? So now they're processing our trauma as we work through our trauma.
They're not processing your trauma. They're not processing anything. What they're doing is you're creating their trauma for them. Somebody who they in a relationship with or a therapist would be processing their trauma.
There you go.
The only way you're gonna raise kids successfully, I'm just gonna put it out there, is to treat each other right. Right. If you and I had a kid together, I don't care about preaching to my kid about life. What I want that kid to see every day without me opening my mouth to them is, man, look at how he treats my mom.
Oh.
Look at how he treats and vice versa, right? So at the end of the day, whether I say nothing to him, he's gonna know what love looks like, what compassion looks like, what trust looks like, and what communication looks like. Because he saw it for 20 years. Remember, the first 20 years is gonna be very important. That's where trauma starts, right?
In that first 20.
Yeah.
And everybody.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. No, I was going to say every time when as a therapist, when I see somebody come through my doors, right, and they sit down and they tell me what they're doing as an adult or what they want to work on as an adult, it's easy for me to go back and say, why or have you been taught that?
because I know what you should know as an adult, right? And if you haven't been taught that, then that becomes your trauma because it's leading to unhealthy behavior, right? So that's why we all carry a level of trauma, even myself, right? The only way I can sit here and talk to you guys with confidence is because I dealt with it.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
So once you deal with it, you can always move to secure attachments, right? But you can't move anywhere until you have what? Accountability, awareness. I have to be aware that my behavior has led to somebody else's heartache, maybe just mine. And then I have to make amends and say to myself, or atonement to myself, and say, it's not going to ever happen again. And then I got to do the work.
The work.
And here's the powerful part. Once you deal with your trauma, the person who benefits the most from your trauma is going to, you dealing with your trauma is going to be you, because you're going to be a better person. And watch this. I told you, whatever happened in your past, it doesn't matter as long as you're ready to deal with it, because it all becomes part of the success. Right. But you just got to get to the other side of it.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah. Love it. Miko, did you want to wrap up with the last general questions?
No, I just want to thank Mr. Marcus so much for joining us tonight. These questions were everything that I thought they'd be and more, because just living in this world, this society right now, and how everybody is just out for self, it's just it's traumatic in itself. It's so toxic that you got the keys to the city. You could tell us all how to be better. So any closing remarks for these broken people out here? I call them little broken
you go.
I would say the first thing you have to do is you have to make sure that you're responsible for managing you, right? So that's the first level. Don't give up your management powers to someone else, right? So for instance, when I meet someone, I want them to know who I am and what they have to walk into. In other words, this is the job description, right? Now, it doesn't mean this job is for you. It means that I hope you look at this job description and that's my wants and needs, and tell me if you can do it or not, right? Because I'm assessing if you can. I'm looking at your resume as well, right? And at some point, it's your responsibility to sit there and say, I don't think this person can meet my job description.
Right.
Because if I hire this person and I know they don't have the skill set to do what I want them to do, shame on me for hiring you, knowing you was going to fail, right? So that would be my thing. Is all marriages and relationships fail for two reasons: either the inability to select the right person because we're not doing that process I just talked about, or if we selected the right person, meaning we went through that process and now conflict happened, we don't know how to get through it, right? So we give up, we exhausted, right? I'm done with this. I'm getting out the car. Let me out. Right. I don't want to go on the road trip no more.
Hey, Joe, let me out. Hey, Joe.
Yeah, let me
out, Joe.
Well, give us some little nuggets of any books or workshops that you would recommend for couples looking to strengthen their relationship.
Well, I think from a book standpoint, any book that deals with how to for you to gain trust, and what I can do is I can leave you guys a plethora of books, because my goodness, I mean the books they're endless. But I can send a list and you can send it to your audience. But at the end of the day, you want to focus on you trusting others, right? Because the trauma comes from the basic level. I can't trust my parents to give me what I need, or I can't trust my parents to keep me safe. So that's the only thing that I feel transfers over into a relationship. So if you can learn how to trust yourself, meaning your decision making, right? Your hunches. A lot of women say, I got this intuition, trust it, right? When you can trust that and then act on that, then everything else is going to be in your favor, right? Because now you're putting yourself as the star player, meaning you're the one that's the value. But the moment you give up on all of that, you give it up to other people. So I would really want to send you a list, because there's some books out there that's really, really important to read for individuals, right? We're not even talking about relationships, whether you're in a relationship or not, right? And I'm gonna send that to you so you can get the author and all that, right? And go from there. And then the other thing I would say from a self learning standpoint is, make sure when you're listening to others that you're listening to them to compare that with who you are, right? Because a lot of times we go into listening to others, whether it's a podcast or whatever, we go into that and we let them dictate who we are.
Right.
We try to fit into their world. And in that when we do that, now somebody else controls us. Now we don't control ourselves. So you have to do that individual work first, right?
I totally, wholeheartedly agree. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, and let me say this too, because I know we're up against the clock here, but let me say this about conflict resolution skills, right? Because we didn't talk about this enough. I think it's going to be when communication happens, how to communicate through conflict. Like that's very important. I want to leave with that. When you have conflict, because you will have it, right? You have to focus on what is the outcome of that conflict, which means two things. I have to make sure I stay focused on the message, but I have to attune to the emotions, even if the emotions are unhealthy or negative, right? So for instance, a fight would never happen again if you do this. If you sit down with the person and say, here's my ouch, whatever your ouch is, right? And if that person validates your feeling, validation is saying they might not know why you're in that situation and feeling that way, but they understand what that feeling is. Meaning, I know if you call and tell me I'm sad, I know what sadness feels like. So I'm going to validate the fact that you're sad. And if it's something I did, I'm going to validate that that wasn't my intention. And then I'm going to listen to you, the person with the sadness, tell me how to make you happy again. So think about this. There's two things going on at one time. The speaker is talking about their needs, right? The speaker is talking about why it's happening. And the speaker is also giving you a way out. The listener, the active listener, is listening to validate the feeling because you want that person to get into your car and say, just be a passenger, don't try to take over. And then you want that person to give their capacity to meet your solution, right? So if that person, you give that person a solution, they say, you know what, I absolutely can do that. It doesn't stop the pain that's happening right now. But what it does is it mitigates the pain so it doesn't happen again. Right. But a lot of times in conflict resolution, we're trying to solve for the pain right now. Wow. So that's when the person starts lying, right? Have you ever had a man do this? You come in, you're like, I'm pissed off about what you did, right?
That's gaslighting to me.
Yes. And so when they hear the word,
and that'll get your beard ripped off.
See, we gotta watch her. See, you gotta watch her now. Okay, but if they,
but I'm the crazy one.
I already know. I'm not gonna say anything. But if they take that emotion, right? Watch this. If they take that emotion and they don't validate that emotion, that you already know this is not going to go well. It's going to be a roadblock in the way of me trying to get my solution. Right.
Wow.
So at that point, you have to be smart enough to know if you want this relationship and you know this person is unhealthy at that point, how to navigate that to get it out the way so you can keep going back to your solution. Because if not, you now have given your steering wheel to the person. Now they're driving the car.
And they can't drive.
And they can't drive. And that's why you keep getting in accidents, right? But we'll talk about that's another.
Yes. Where's your glasses at?
They blind. They can't see. They need to wear sunglasses like DMC.
Oh my God. Close this out, Miss Lady.
Yeah. Sorry.
But just when you guys said that, it reminded me of being vulnerable and the people knowing that you've opened up, and then now they're using your vulnerability against you. You know, you didn't show them a tender. You showed them your ouch, and now they know the ouch. So every time there's a conflict, you messing with my ouch.
Well, the self-centered person can't see your ouch, so only you'll know that you're being gaslit because a self-centered person would never see your ouch. That's the validation, right? So you keep talking about your ouch, and that person keeps saying, "What about mine?"
Oh, right. Now we comparing ouches, huh?
Yeah.
It's the ouch Olympics, right? My ouch is bigger than yours, right? Yeah.
Big ouch, little ouch, huh?
And all that messes with intimacy because if I can't even tell you my ouch, how can I drop my clothes to you and give you the best part of me? Yeah, come on, man.
I'm socking you. I'm socking you. Yeah. Love is gone. Moisture gone. Moisture's gone.
Alicia.
Yes,
close us out, darling.
Close us out. Oh my God. Well, thank you, Soulful listeners. Thank you, Mr. Marcus, for your wonderful just heat rocks and drop it on us with this soulful conversation. Check us out on Soulful. Can't even talk. Soulful Conversations.com, soulful/conversations.com. And let's take a moment to get each other to know what's going on. So thank you so much for joining us. This has been a wonderful experience. Very edutainment, as I say. Me and KRS-One. Edutaining.
It doesn't stop.
It doesn't. I love it. I love it, man. You got the first invite to the party. That's all I'm gonna say. So you got it.
Say less. Say less. I'm in the house. Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming, Marcus. We appreciate you.
I appreciate you.
All right, thank you for listening to Soulful Conversation. We hope you enjoyed tonight's Soulful Conversation. Be sure to stay connected with us during the week through our weekly podcasts on Spotify, our YouTube channel, Patreon, and social media. And don't forget to send in those soulful requests to be heard on the podcast at info@soulful-conversation.com. Again, thanks for listening to Soulful Conversation. I'm your host, Shar the Star, and my fabulous co-host, Nico the Moonlight.